Hey everyone. So today we will be talking about the current meta and I'll make a tier list. Now, this is very unfortunate timing for the tier list, but what can you do? Why is it unfortunate timing? Because we're getting the summer premiere next week. The summer premiere isn't included on the list yet that I'm about to show for the um, tier list. But since we don't know whether Formir's gimmick, the detaining one unit, actually works through immunity or not, and we'll only find out on Thursday, I cannot judge her. So we'll make do with what we have right now, because from my opinion, the meta is super 8s anyway. But as you can tell, I'm currently Emperor rank, so this is not a legend player perspective. My drafting suck. My gear is pretty good, I'd say, but I just draft like a mongoloid most of the time and then lose and then wonder why. Most of the times, though, it's just bad RNG. But nothing that you can make up for better drafting. So, anyways, I do have knowledge, though. I realize which units are incredibly strong, which aren't performing that well. So today's video is going to be a PvP RTA tier list based off of an Emperor, High Emperor, I should add, player's perspective. So without further ado, let's move over to the tier list. As you can tell, everything's in up to and including Obald Ludwig. So we'll go through. The list contains of OP, please nerf. Those are the actual standout units, the first big units that you will see pretty much every game, with one or two caveats in this case. I explain why I believe so. And then we've got the S tier, which is the extremely strong units that perform very well that you see most of the time on 2 to 4. The 8th tier, which I would probably sort out by pick 5, just to counter or provide a force ban. And then there's the B tier, very rarely used, one could say very niche units, but still have some use. And then there's the 1 tier, meaning absolute garbage. Please don't use them ever, because you will lose if you pick them. So let's start out with a few 1 tier units. The Ras that you're seeing here is the non-specialty changed one, to nobody's surprised. 1 tier, same for Cecilia, same for Rose, same for this version of Silk, same for Mercedes, same for the blue version of Kisei. Please don't use her, she loses your games. Now, Green Velvet Dawn, solid A tier. You will see him on 4 or 5 to some degree for speed imprinting. He is very good, he deals incredible amounts of damage, and he's a force to be reckoned with. Armin, not used. Charlotte, I've seen her. She's hard to judge. Maybe A tier, maybe B tier. I'll put her in B tier. Whenever I saw her, she was picked 5. Her impact is pretty good if you have incredibly good gear on her. So she's not the worst, but also not the best. She's easily countered, though, especially if you have somebody like Mord on your team or Sea Phantom, who is also being used quite often lately. So not the best spot, but still, the last buff actually made it kind of work. Zerato not used, Blue Karen not used, this Corvus version is not used, this unit is not used. The green Sid, he does have his uses, I've never seen him. I've seen Aronian, that's the Epion woman, or now 6 ducks. She's, I believe, currently rank 1 or rank 2, not the Euro player, but the Korea player. She uses Green Sid sometimes, but just because she's using Green Sid doesn't mean the unit is actually that good, because she's, I believe, 70 out of 5 for 25 plus speed. With 70 plus 25 plus speed, you can make any unit work. She even has a 270 no-dose. I believe that says it all. Ball, don't care. Green Euphine, don't care, honestly. Arcadis, PvE only. Red Ravi, PvE only. Green Shuri, not Green Shuri, but Red Shuri. I'll put him in B tier. He has his uses in some cleaves, but most of the time he's just a speed imprint on pick 5. If you want to really race, so yeah, kind of what ifs. Dingo not used. Ruel S tier still to this very day. She's just a bane. Whether you have her on Candlestick or Idol's Cheer, both are incredibly toxic, and she will stall out games. She will straight up win you games because she cycles this much. incredibly strong. Still don't know why we have 2 red Chairons here, but alas, both 1 tier, same for the green Isterias, same for the green shards. These are all 1 tier, so let's just pass them around. Stray's A tier. I could go for S tier too, but I believe he's not that good anymore. Last season I would have easily rated him S tier. I believe this season he's A tier. He's more like put 4-5, and most often then picked with Sarome, just so you can double S3 on Strays, and then it kind of works well, but he does have a lot of counters, so he's not that strong anymore, but he is still a very powerful unit, don't get me wrong. And these are all trash, so let's move on ahead. Muy sadly. Red Lidica. I had my I hated her when she got buffed with strip all buffs. Luckily, people figured out how to beat her again, and then she immediately faded out of the meta. And she's also hard to give for high speed. She will have to contest with Arenal and Renard, and because she has lower base speed than both of them, she falls out of the meta really quickly, and you need very specific comps to make Red Lidica work, and most of the time you don't have the luxury to pick these units, mainly speed imprints, and if you get outsped, it's still a loose gun. So the next few ones aren't used. The Chloe version. Wait, isn't that? No, that's the blue Chloe. This Tenebria is the red Tenebria. She's not used. Same for Bazaar. Kind of funny that I would put Genua in 1 tier. But that's the current state of the meta. RML basically entirely shuts down Genua, because once RNL tags Genua, and she will always tag because no Genua is played with VR these days, so RNL will always tag, and that means his passive cannot proc. Yes, the mortality still procs, but it stands stripped off of him. He gets feared, and it's GG, and he doesn't get the benefit of his rage buff, which enables him to deal huge amounts of damage, and it renders Genua entirely useless. Too bad. I feel like Genua is genuinely a strong unit, and he could use a buff to make him more viable in the meta, but I wouldn't know what kind of buff they could give him to make it work. Maybe full dispel like Celine when he gets below 50%, but that probably would be too strong. And that, I mean, he already does full dispel, but I mean, if he gets the full dispel also applies when he gets movement impaired, like fear, stun, sleep, what have you. But that could be a little bit too oppressive and too OP. On the other hand, we do have Ilanaf, we do have Iceria, we have Penrest, so they could technically survive and make the team survive more. But still, I kind of see that Smygate might be in a pickle with Genoa, but if that were one way to buff him, that'd be one of them, I would suggest. Schneel, B tier, DDR made a slight comeback. So Schneel, DDR made only a slight comeback in Zeo Cleave, I might add. And that puts Schneel back onto the menu. I've seen a few Schneel against Biblis, but it doesn't feel that good, honestly, because there's only one turn where Biblis does this, and that's first turn on S3. And usually the game doesn't last long enough for a second S3 of Biblis. So I could put Schneel into 1 tier, but that would be neglecting the actual strength here, so I'll keep it in B tier. The next ones aren't used at all. With the Green Ludwig, none of these are used. Dien isn't 1 tier, the blue Dien that is, so I'll put in B tier. She's still a solid pick 5. There's one guy on the ladder who picks Dien on 3 every single game, and he has an above 50% win rate, so it apparently works. But that's just one guy. I believe she's still a solid B tier. Good for... because she has the same base speed as Amit, so she can make it work, especially if you have a CR push already like Soul Constellation to push her above or to cut. But that's pretty much about it. I personally don't see her that often, so your mileage may vary. The next units aren't that used. Xeno, B tier, strictly a passive bot, nothing else. In my opinion, do not build him on DPS or whatsoever. He's gonna die, and then all of a sudden, all the Setsuka passives work again. You don't hit anything, and Setsuka wrecks your team. So please, for your own sake, build him full bulk. Don't give him any speed. Nobody cares. I have mine on 30k HP, 2k defense. He's just a passive bot, but he works quite well as a passive bot and has won me countless games already against Setsuka comps, because most people disrespect Xeno. They believe they can just kill him off because everybody expects him to be fast and medium to low bulk. And when they get greeted by a 30k, 2k defense, most of the time people just immediately FF because they realize they cannot get rid of him before I get rid of Setsuka and other evasion units. So solid B tier, good unit. The next ones aren't to use, so we'll skip ahead to Elena. Elena, solid A or B tier. I'll put in B tier because her own reason for existence is countering Briarcleave, and that's about it. And Briarcleave, other than Higa and a few Higa copies, nobody's really playing Briarcleave, so she's not that used often, but still a very good pick nonetheless against Briarcleave. The next units are all not used at all, so we'll move ahead. Celine, B tier. She has seen an upbringing ever since Obeyed Ludwig has been released, because she performs very well. She cannot get debuffed on Obeyed's S3, and in an ideal case scenario, if you have a very strong and high damage Celine, she can then cut through the enemy lines and kill off the Obeyed Ludwig, which makes her a very solid pick nowadays again. Mort, A tier, still the GOAT when it comes to countering Setsuka, countering especially Estelle. He disables the strong passive of Estelle, making her entire fighting spirit gain a lot slower, and also counters all these double cringe Arbiter Wildreds. So very good unit, still sees a lot of play. Elfeld not used, this isn't used. Dreamlandy, I'll put her in B tier. She's a nice pick 5 when the enemy has a lot of buffs, especially when you pick Arnel, the enemy goes Moondom, Yolha, and Aria. In that cases, this Landy really starts to shine, because the enemy is gonna have plenty of buffs and will stack up your Landy tremendously, so she provides an ample DPS and tempo to your party. Fla not used. I feel so sorry for Red Politis. She's good, but she needs a buff. She needs 100% on her strip. Not strip, she needs a strip, because right now she has only reduced by 1 turn on her S2 passive, and I feel like that's not enough these days. It has to be a full strip of all buffs for her to make Red Politis viable, and I'm hoping that in the next buff patch, which is coming out after season ends, so it's the week after July 11th, that we'll see a Politis buff where she strips all instead of just reducing buffs by 1 turn. Red enough not used. The slime units aren't used. Rebellion. She's not as strong as her Rel, so I'll put an A tier. She's really good. But she doesn't fully counter Obeyed Ludwig. I'll say that right away. Because if Obeyed Ludwig has his own artifact, the enemy still gains the 5 souls, because for some reasons the artifact passive is not neglected. Which is kind of weird, because Book or the Ring from Frieren don't work either against Beline, but Obeyed's passive works for some reason through Beline, so there is that. But still a very, very solid unit, especially against Frieren, so yeah, incredibly good. Ran isn't used, Zahak isn't used, Rimuru, Shuna, and Milim aren't used, even though Milim could see use against Celine and Randy, but I've never encountered a single Milim. So these aren't used. Lua, her buff didn't do anything. Kehu, I could put him in B tier, but he's bad. There aren't really many ways to use him. I've seen a few people use them in Zeocleave to counter the DN plus Ivana counter to the Zeocleave, but then you just don't press buttons. Or you press buttons, sorry, and still cut the Teiyu, and it's just GG. So I feel like the Teiyu impact is just too minimal. Hua, Arya, Yulha, Jekko, all aren't used. Sharoon isn't used. Zeodos, I feel like Zeo is back in S tier. And especially is going to be S tier again with the upcoming Fumir. Because Fumir acts as a perfect bridge for Zeo. It's hard to say. I couldn't see him in S tier. I can see him in A tier. My gut feeling tells me he's just A tier. Because right now, he's still too easily countered. So I'm put him in A tier, but I wouldn't put it past me to see him in S tier as well. The FMA units not used. Karina isn't used. The Esper girls sadly are out of the meta. I wish for a rerun with buffs. That could be good. Amid, Elagos, all bad. Don't use them. Especially Amid is so easily countered by Moondom, and Moondom is everywhere these days. So don't bother with Amid. Brick not used. This not used. This Fumir isn't used. Elvira, I see her sometimes against Zeocleave and Teo. So I'll put her in B tier. She's still a good pick 5. Same for Veronica, also a decent pick 5 against DN. But that's about it. Now, Harsedi, I'll say it bluntly, she's still a super dumb unit. She's still overpowered. She basically takes away a pre-ban slot, and I hate it whenever I play against her. I have always the worst outcomes when I play against her, so please, just fucking nerf Harsedi already. And the easiest way to fix Harsedi, by the way, is that yes, she still locks speed at 90% of her speed, but at least let me have the CR that is used by regular speed determines. What do I mean by that? If my RNL is faster than my, say, Renak, my Renak, even in our house, my Renak in a Harsedi matchup should always be below my RNL. The same applies to enemies. If the enemy has all base speed units should go behind my faster units. That's the only real way to fucking balance this dumb fuck unit of Harsedi. Because otherwise, you're just rolling the dice on who gets the better RNG, and it's just a absolutely dumb way to play a unit. It's not fun for neither side. She's just a stupidly balanced unit. She needs a nerf. Full stop. And if you try to argument otherwise, you're just an Harsedi abuser and roll the dice every game and flip the coin and pray that you have the better RNG. Please stop. Harsedi needs a nerf. And she needed it 2 years ago, because that's how long she's been in the game and has been ruining the game. Biblis, the blue one. Irons, don't use them. Albedo, too bad. I believe she needs a buff, just like Shaltier. But I don't think she's gonna get a rerun anytime soon, so neither is getting a rerun anytime soon, so yeah. Fenris, nope. Laya, not enough tempo. Brigitte, she's nice for cleave, but has the same issue that Amid has. Needs the extra turn, thus immediately countered by Moondom. Wukong not used. Green Senya is okay. Young Senya, I should say, because there's 2 Green Senya. Young Senya is alright. B tier, solid B tier too. Is used fairly often. Frida, Victorica not used. Renak is still S tier. Still prime counter to RNL. Still prime. Speed racing unit still has high impact on the game. So still a very, very strong unit, just like Rill. Robin, nope. Tori is S tier. She's one of the anchor units, one of the hard carries, and we'll see more of those units. The next one is actually in line. Frieren, Tori, and Frieren both hard carries. Frieren these days, of all the units that are out, and you cannot pre-ban every stupid unit like Scales, Barunka, Harsedi, Zeo, what have you. So eventually we come to a place where you have to deal with Frieren, you have to deal with Tori, And that day is today. And both of them work even through their counters, which one of them is Beline, for example. Both Tori and Frieren are hard countered by Beline because Beline 3F goes through Tori's passive. It still deals an amazing amount of damage, but with all the revivers, with all the mitigation, especially the 25% defense warfare mitigation, Tori still survives. Same for Frieren. So the value of Beline has gone down while the value of Tori and Frieren has gone up tremendously, which is kind of funny that Smilegate would buff the units that are already strong and subsequently nerf the ones or weaken the ones through passives that are supposed to counter them. I don't know what the reason behind this balancing is, but I don't feel like it's good. Because otherwise, I would like to have the roles reversed. Beline in S tier and Tori and Frieren in A tier. That would make for a better balanced game, but I guess balance is not on Smilegate's menu these days. Fern, she just doesn't work anymore. I like Fern gameplay, but I have to be honest, she's just not that good at all. Setsuka, I hate to say it, but this unit is dumb, so S tier. Genesis Ross has fallen off quite tremendously. Too slow. There are way too many counters to him, mainly enough on the one hand, but Moondom, she's so much back in the matter that she's way too oppressive against him. Also, Perfume of the hard counters, because the entire party of yours has too much HP, or the enemy party has too much HP, and then Genesis Ross cannot kill her anymore. FCC, I believe she's making a slight comeback due to Obeyed Ludwig, but I feel like Maid Chloe is the better counter than Obeyed. But still, not Maid Chloe, but FCC, solid B tier, she can work, but it's hard to make her work. The Silk, the Ranger Silk, the yellow, Night Silk, Speed Imprint, that's about it. Rose, Judge Kisei, nope. RB, sadly S tier, I hate to see it. Hard carry just like Frieren and Tori, which I hate very much, but what can you do? Carmen, B tier, he can work quite well, but it's not that good. These three, it's kind of wild to put BBK into 1 tier, but that's what it is. BBK is really bad these days. It's kind of insane. Corvus B tier. Ever since Warfested, I believe his value has gone up and he can make it work. I've seen drafts where he was working as a hard carry, and I find that very funny. It's really good. Assassin Cartuja, no. He's good in PvE, but not in PvP. Sage Ball, he's a decent counter to some of the faster comps where you just out-push them, so he kinda works. Abyssal Yuffie, nope, not used anymore. Not used. Apop Ravi isn't that good. Watcher Shuri, no. Blaze Dingo, no. Destina, I could see her in B tier. She has her uses, but it's just not working that well. Same for Kairon. I forgot his name. Light Kairon, though. She works well in ER Frenzy when you have a super bulky one behind Christie, because all of a sudden he has 500 ER, and when you have Beline on your team, the enemy cannot soul burn anymore, and then Kairon just solos, which is kind of funny. So Kairon works, and I like it. Briar, solid A tier. She does not quite make it to S tier for the very reason that there are way too many counters. Outspeeding, the most prominent. Zio, the next best option. DN, there's so many counters to Briar that I cannot put her to S tier with a profound conscience. So I'll put her in S tier, but still a very strong unit. And the order of the units in this list does not indicate powerness, it's just because of the list. Yeah, Charles, Solid Snake Charles, not good anymore. These are all trash, so let's skip. Dim, Bunny, no, what's her name? I forgot her name. I think it's just Dominia. Let's check in the game because I actually don't know what's her name. Dark Mage. I don't have a gear, that's for sure. Challenger Dominia, right, that's right. Challenger Dominia. She has her users, but it's straight up only cleave. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 drafts. Don't take it too seriously. Specimen says Zero cleave unit. Works quite well in that niche, but that's all it is, just a niche. Haste, nope. Ambitious Tywin, nope. Faithless Lydica, Broman, nope. S, B, and A can be used in cleave. She works quite well. Ideally, you have 2 versions of her, one faster, one slower. The slower one with 300 plus effectiveness, so you can tag through Arya, but it's gonna be hard. Let's put it that way. Mate Chloe, I'll put in A tier. She's making a huge comeback due to Obeyed Ludwig, so very solid place to be in right now. Spectre Tenebria not worth, DJB not worth, all of these aren't worth. Luna, still solid A tier. She can handle most of the units these days, but she isn't that oppressive anymore, which I find super crazy to think about, because last year, or 2 years ago, even she was just everywhere and super oppressive, but nowadays the power creep has spiked so much that she's just an A tier, but a solid A tier. Ludwig, not used. LRK, not used anymore. LCB, Lone Crush and Bologna, S tier. The next hard carry in the game next to Frieren, Tori, RB, and Setsuka. LCB, super strong. One of the strongest DPS units, especially in offense warfare. In offense warfare, she's a menace. And she has a counter though. Tori is a prime counter. But still, incredibly strong unit. Opsic, no. Handgun, no. Rylot, no. Lionheart, no. Commander Pavel, great in Freering, Briarcleave, but still a B tier unit, way too easily countered. Flop model Luluka, B tier. She's an opener. She's used for racing, and because RNL and Renak are faster, base speed faster, most of the time she gets ultsped and then your team dies. So not that strong in general. The next few units aren't used at all. Conqueror isn't used. DDR is used in Zero Cleave, so we'll put him in. Astro Elena. Technically speaking, I want to put her in the 1 tier. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna put her in 1 tier. Like, this unit doesn't work. She needs a buff. Full stop. I refuse to put Astro Elena into B tier because she doesn't work. Once you go into Notos' field, that unit is useless. So she needs a buff. Same for designer Lilibet. Like, I get the idea behind Lilibet, but she's too slow. She doesn't stack fast enough, and she's completely tempered by block, so the unit is rather useless. Architect Leica, just a nope. Shu, oh my god, Shu. B tier or 1 tier, I can't decide. I'll put her in B tier. I've seen her work a few times when Biblis was banned and the enemy had Arya. But I would understand if you put her in 1 tier. But at least from my Emperor point of view, she could have some use in B tier. Requiem Runner not used. Celine, it's a tough spot for me. Either S tier or A tier. I could see both, honestly. But I put in A tier just because the counters are too strong. And you need basically 3 revivers. You need Salvame, you need Ruel, and you need either Mate or Yolhard to make her work consistently. Or you have incredible gear, like 480 gear score on her and the entire team of yours, just to make her work. If you can make that work, congrats. She might be an S tier to you, but otherwise she's just A tier. Bright Sanya not used. Landy not used. I'll put Pirate Clan into B tier. She's solid. provides a lot of tempo, but she's not that strong in general. She's mostly a pick 5 unit, and that's what the B tier is after all, just a pick 5 or very niche, and she fits both categories. Solitaria not used. Sea Phantom, solid B or A tier. I'll put in A tier. She's seen a lot more use lately, especially against all these fighting spirit units. So yeah, this feels good. Elena isn't quite 1 tier, but she barely needs a buff. The amounts of time that I've seen Elena these days has shrunken to maybe single-digit percentage. Still counters quite a lot of units, especially Strays was on this list, and the B tier, no, in the A tier? Well, Strays in the A tier, yeah. Also Ward counter, we'll see Gala in a few too. She counters those two, so it's good to have her in the B tier. Boss Arunka is still A tier. I wouldn't put it past me to put her in S tier, but with the upcoming release of Fumia and lots of units being able to ignore Boss Arunka, she's still a solid A tier. She's still one of the most annoying units in the game. And when Fumia arrives, I'm already preparing for the memes, because all these actual challenger players or warlord players that are currently in Emperor will drop down to warlord or challenger, with a champion, where they belong, because they rely on Boss Arunka too much. This unit is just cringe, full stop. And a lot of people will drop tremendously in rank once Fumir is out and Boss Arunka never sees play again. So I can't wait for that day. What's the name again? Para, low move Para, B tier. I could put an A tier, but there's only Kudai stop members who use Para well. So while I appreciate Sindri and the lots using Para, and she can have higher impact on the game, I feel like she's still a niche unit. Same for Lua. Nowadays, since Yolha isn't that picked anymore that much, I can see her work well, but still Yolha is... actually, that statement was wrong. Yolha is picked more often these days because of Obeyed, but still, you can always pick Yolha yourself or just post banner, and then Lua takes the lead. Still good unit though. Decent unit, but badly needs a buff of some sort, or EE. But yeah. B tier for Successor Teiyu, decent unit in Zero Cleave, works well. I'm sorry to say, but Bystander Wyong is trash. You cannot convince me otherwise. This unit does not work. She needs a buff. Disciplinary Prefect Aria, yeah, that's her full name, S tier. I could put in A tier because she only really strongly works in offense warfare or resistance warfare. Whoops. But I feel like she made such a huge comeback. She's actually a really strong unit nowadays. With all the protection, especially if you have Boss Arunka on your team, you cannot reach her and she will eventually deal with your team. So she's an incredibly good unit to have. She's one of those that work well. Just like LCB, just like Tori. She's a little bit slower than the two, but her impact on the game, especially on the soul side of the game, is actually really good. So yeah, I'm very happy to see Arya so high up and seeing more usage of her, because she is one of the few units that I would say she's perfectly balanced. Like, she has a clear downsides, she has huge upsides. She's just one of those units. I wish Smygate would make more units like Arya. Perfectly balanced. There isn't anything inherently wrong with her. She isn't super oppressive like Harsedi, like RNL, or what have you. She's just very well done. And I would appreciate it if Smygate made more of these units. Sharoon, B tier. She's used with Rena more or less lately, but that's about it. She doesn't really work well into Flag Sigurd, because Flag Sigurd doesn't have to press S3, and then Sharoon's impact on the game is rather low. Dark Aiden, nope. These are all nopes. This is the wrong arrow, that's why she's in the Irons tier. So we'll go through all these 3 stars here really quick. You're not missing out on anything. My god, there's a lot of them. So let me quickly move through all of these. It does look inflated in the Irons tier, but that's because there's all 3 stars in here. I have to be worried to not put any of the good specialty changed units into this list, but so far it does not appear to be the case. Yeah, so we're slowly getting there. That's the wrong army key as well, so don't mind me. All right, oops, we'll put Scarwell back because Scarwell surely does not belong in here. So Scarwell is solid 8 here. She's a really strong tank, especially for when you want to protect units such as Tori. Alright, these units though, not used. None of them. Taurus, no, nope. Christy, very solid 8 here. Who doesn't like 300 ER for free for the back row? Super strong. Definitely worth building. I've seen Amiki make a comeback, so she's B tier. Adventurers also B tier, not the best, but they make it work. Archdemon Shadow is a huge nope. Sharklet is a huge nope. Holiday Fiend is a huge nope. Iseria is a huge nope. These are huge nopes. And where's... yeah. Gala is also A tier. Same deal with Strays, basically. You use her with Suddenly, you complete the Gala, and then you have 2 free kills, basically, if your Gala is very well built. So, yeah, Gala, decent pick. Works very well. Flan dropped off, B tier, pick 5 most of the time, just to give the enemy something to post down, because she still deals a tremendous amount of damage, but she's not first pick material anymore, like she was 2 years ago, I believe, when she got released. Festive Ida, very solid A tier, still very good. In Festive Ida Cleave, good unit overall. Hwayong, the blue Hwayong, Argent Waves, B tier, I would say. Same for Leafy. Leafy Cleave isn't that popular anymore, but still a decent unit. Adam is seeing more play these days due to Obeyed, just to push him back up, so I'll put her in B tier. Wretched Rose not used. Scales still in the OP. Trajectory, yes, she will get finally counted by Fumir. So maybe if I were to make this video next week, hopefully Scales will only go down to S tier, but still to this very day, she's mainly a Cleave unit nowadays, I feel like. You only see her with Briar Cleave, pick 1 Scales, pick 2 Freeron, pick 3 Briar and jerk off, basically, or Ruel also works, and then cringe the enemy down forever and ever. That also works, so yeah. Scales still way too overpowered for my taste, but I'm happy that Fumir hopefully makes her a lot weaker. And IMO, Ivana just doesn't cut it against Scales. That's the issue I'm having. Alright, these don't work at all. I put Arcades, Light Arcades into B tier. She works well against Zeo Cleave. I forgot his name, the Dark Shori. He's B tier, pick 5 basically. When you have DN, he can work. It's okay in that regard, but rarely used. Moonarm, kind of funny. S tier, A tier, both works, but since she counters Rena, she counters RNL, she counters Sadome. Yeah, Moondom is S tier. It's kind of wild. The meta as it is today makes her very, very strong. So kind of funny. Same for Witch of the Mir Tenebria. She still has a place. She's still very strong, but succumbs to 15%. But if she works so well. It's kind of insane. So still S tier in my opinion, even though she's been used less, because I believe people are just fed up with her antics. I could see an A tier honestly, and it wouldn't shock me if other YouTubers or top tier players would put an A tier. But from my experience at least, whenever I use her, she's just performing super well, even if I get 15%ed on one unit, for example. Unless it's the unit that I absolutely wanted to be debuffed. Light Angelica, not used. Yolha, still A tier, still S tier. I'll put in S tier, she's really strong still. Saria, B tier, only used with extra turn. I'll put her cut into A tier because she still is very strong with Salome. And as you can tell, a lot of units are in A or B, S tier because of Salome. But the A tier is kind of a Salome showcase because Strays worked with Salome, Gala, I cut so many units benefit or gain ranks just because Salome exists. Racist Sigrid S tier, sadly, I hate this unit with a passion. Same for Shepherd, the end, still S tier, even though Ivana exists, and we'll put Ivana. Actually, no, I'll put her in A tier. Ivana just puts such a huge dent onto the viability of the end that she's not that strong anymore to justify S tier, because all these units that are currently in S tier see way more play than the end does. Surin, this Surin particular doesn't see play. B tier for Archie, he is very good, but he's a pick 5 unit, usually force ban, but when you get him through, he will perform very well, but still niche unit, B tier, perfectly fits him well. Monarch Asaria, B tier, honestly. She's not that strong as Setsuka, who can just win games by herself, and the main reason why Setsuka is so much higher than Monarch is RNL can miss Setsuka. There's a very high chance, 50% to say, that RNL misses on Setsuka, and if that happens, the game is over. So, and the same cannot be said for Monarch Asteria, because the minute Monarch Asteria gets hit by RNL, she gets bound and then cannot counter anymore, and her main gimmick is gone. And then Monarch is basically just staying there at base speed, can't do shit, and just dies. And provides nothing to the team. Ruiza, super bad. A tier for tactical collie, super strong. Notos, without a doubt, still OP, please nerf. When you get his S3, unless you have the perfect counter with Estelle, with LCB, and some form of revive, you will not survive. No errors. So, yeah. Biblis, I don't know what to tell you. If you feel like Biblis is not OP, you're playing it wrong. This unit is just not balanced, full stop. Salome, also in the OP tier. I believe, in my opinion, Salome cycles way too fast. The fact that she can copy S3, and especially if you copy somebody with an extra turn, such as such as Arnel, such as Strays, what have you. If there's a unit that has an extra turn, she basically cycles S2, S3, S1, S2. And because you usually play at 300 speed, she cycles so fast, this unit is just... She's just dumb. I don't know what to say. Yeah, her win rate in below Legend may say otherwise, that she's bad. But that's because people still play her wrong to this very day. And when you see the Legend stats of Salome, it paints a very different picture of how strong she actually is. So yeah, this unit is just plain overpowered. Especially with Revivers. It's just not funny anymore how much roping you can do with Salome and Yulha, or Salome and Ruel, for example. It's insanity. Estelle, a very, very solid S tier, super strong unit, high impact on the game, but not as oppressive as the top 5 right now. Ivana, I'll put in the same tier as Dien, because if Dien is A tier, so is Ivana. They cancel each other out. Ivana, very good unit though. And yeah, high impact on the game. It has to be the same tier as Dien, basically. Arhel, I don't think anybody disagrees. Super overpowered. There's nothing to say about this unit that I would get demonetized on YouTube if I were to if I speak, I'll be in trouble. I'll be in huge trouble. And I don't want to be in trouble. Yeah, obeyed S tier, A tier. I can see both, but I'll put him in S tier. He's a high impact unit. If you draft him correctly, he's just going to dominate the game. And if you draft him badly, he's just going to be a chud. So there's just two sides, I feel like. But he's a very strong unit if you draft him correctly. And yeah, that's pretty much the list. I think that fairly is accurate. So, and I'm actually happy about this because all the units in the OP tier, in the S tier, and the A tier, you constantly see them. And what I really like is when you, even the B tier units that are used fairly often still, it tells me that the meta could be technically very healthy. But when you look at the OP list, you realize that all these units make you suffer, especially the ones in the S tier. Like, who doesn't hate playing against Setsuka? Who doesn't hate playing against Ruel, against LCB, against RB? I personally hate playing against RB. That unit makes my blood boil. Especially if you double cringe artifact for 50% counter that procs 100% of the time. We all hate Racer's Secret like the other guy. It's just no fun to be had. And all these units in S tier are, with the exception of Aria, are absolute anti-fun units. You hate your life when you play against them. You hate your life when you play with them, especially Setsuka. Because when she's on your side, she's just AFK, but God forbid you play against Korea server with Setsuka, you know you're gonna miss 4 out of 4 every single time, and you will hate your life and hate that you ever played Epic 7 to begin with. But that's what the S tier is of. The S tier is the shit tier because the game makes you feel like shit these days when you play against anybody in the S tier. And that's pretty much fitting. Again, exception Arya in this case because she's perfectly balanced. But yeah. I really dislike the current meta, and I hope that Fumir puts a stop to most of these units, especially Arunka, especially Lady of the Scales, especially Ruel, and maybe some dumb players that put anybody in the S tier into the front row, because that means that unit is gone from the game. But yeah, we'll see. I believe this still should hold up fairly well, this tier list. And that wraps up today's video, so let's go back to the game. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of the weekend. We'll see each other for the next Guild War. I took a small break from Guild Wars, if noticed. I'll be back on Monday though, so tomorrow. And we'll see each other then. Have a good one. Bye bye.